Okay, so let's begin by making our first project. Now in this course, we're going to be using Android Studio. We are going to start a new Android Studio project. Then we're going to give it a name. I'm just going to call this Demo Unit 1. Okay. Now in this one, you want to make sure that this phone and tablet is checked. So go ahead and check that. Go next. All right, blank activity. We're going to create a blank activity. What is an activity? Well, an activity in Android is basically a screen. So when you're in a login screen, that's represented by a certain activity. You log in, you go to another screen on your phone, that would be a different activity in most cases. I'm just going to go ahead and name this activity first activity. Okay, I'm going to click finish. All right, now it's going to go ahead and set up my Android Studio project. It's going to have to configure and build some things. Okay, so when it comes up first, you'll have this tip of the day. I keep this to show tips on startup just because sometimes the tips are very helpful. But we're going to close out of that for now. So here we are looking at our very first Android project. So it doesn't look like much. Now, a lot of times I'll get this down here, this rendering problems. Rendering failed with a known bug. Please try a rebuild. Usually, if I click this once or twice, then it will remedy itself. Let's see. And okay, boom. Good. So this was the part when I first opened Android Studio that I was really stoked about, because I was like, whoa, I actually recognize something. It's a phone and it says Hello World on it. Before we get started, I want to go in and change something in the preferences. And here's why. Can anybody tell me what the code is on line 15? Didn't think so. And that's because there are no line numbers. It's very, very helpful when you're coding to add line numbers. So if you go in here to preferences, you go into the editor, you go into general, you go into appearance, you can go right here and click show line numbers, okay? You wanna make sure you hit apply. All right, so we apply that, okay, and voila. So trick question, there was no line 15. Another thing we're gonna wanna do is up here where it says Android, there's a bunch of different stuff we can choose and see kind of different folders and whatnot. We're going to be on this project folder here. So go ahead and click the project. Now let's take a look at the relevant folders you're going to be working with. Okay, now don't freak out like I did when I first saw all these folders. It turns out that you only need just a few of them. The main folders we're concerned with are in this area over here called app. So if I expand that, I get a few folders. You see a lot of abbreviations in here, which at first makes it a little confusing, but once you realize, oh, that just means that, then you start to get it. Okay, so SRC, that just means source. All right, so if we click on that, we have a few more drop-down menus. Now we're not really concerned with this. Let's go to main. Main sounds like something we should go to, and you'd be right, it is. So we go to main, we have Java. Now, for those of you who don't know, Java is the programming language that Android uses. So if I expand Java, I can see my first activity. Remember we named this when we were setting up the screen in the first place? So now let's go over here, res. Res stands for resources, okay? And resources is basically gonna have everything that you see here. It's all your stuff in resources. So if we expand that, we have a few more folders. Okay, let's check out this first folder, drawable. I'm sure there's a good reason why they didn't just call this images and more, but basically that's what you can think of it as for the most part. This is where we're gonna put all our images. We're gonna put any sounds that we load in, icons, splash screens. That's going to go in this drawable folder. Now, there's nothing in it right now because we haven't added anything. We're going to add some stuff here in a moment. If we go here to layout, we have activity first. Again, wow, that sounds a lot like first activity. It's because it is. So watch, if I double click on this and I go to design down here, boom, I'm back to my picture of my phone with my hello world. Back to this area over here, we do have the Android manifest. Okay, that is going to be where we do things like we set what icon is displayed, where we can give our app a title label. We can also use this little piece here, it's called an intent filter, to tell the app which activity or which screen we want to start with first. We're going to go back to our activity first, and we're going to do some just basic things here, and then we're going to run this app. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the graphical editor, right? This obviously represents a phone, and this is what it would look like. You can customize almost every little nuance and piece of your app. And a lot of that is done over here in the properties. So let's do something very basic. Let's just go and change the background color. So if I click background over here in the properties area, and I click over here to the right, and I select this little square, I can go to the color wheel here, and I can check out a bunch of different colors. So I can just pick something here, right? If I had a specific RGB, right, like the red value was say 78, this was maybe 210, 220, and this was say 50. Then that would be that awesome green color. Or I can put in a specific hexadecimal color. So for now, I'm feeling like kind of a nice light blue. So if I go to OK, voila, my app is light blue. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and run the app on the emulator. So first of all, if I haven't run the emulator yet, what I need to do is click on this little pink icon up here. Okay, this is the Genymotion Device Manager. The Genymotion is the emulator for this course that we're going to be using to run our apps on. Okay, so if I click there, I can see that I have, these are the different Genymotion emulators that I've set up. And this is their resolutions, and this is the API they're set up to run. Okay, so you can see the status off, on. So if it's off and you want to start it, then you just hit start. And I used to think you had to hit it twice, but it turns out I was just really impatient. You only have to hit it once. It just takes a minute. So if that's on, you're good to go. Now to run the app, there's a couple ways to do that. You can hit this little green button. You can go to the Run menu and hit Run App, or you can hit Control R on Mac. Okay, so let's go back here and let's run this. Every time that you run the app, this window will pop up unless you click Use Same Device for Future Launches. If you click Use Same Device for Future Launches, then it's just always going to run on this device. You can change that later if you want. I'm going to go ahead and click it because that's what we're going to be running it on. All right, so if I click OK. Okay, and so I'm just going to toggle here. I use Command Tab all the time to toggle. And look, there we go. So this is our emulator running our app. Hello World.